Namaskar. A warm welcome to World News and Indian Perspective on All India Radio. This is R.S. Raghu, and with me is Vaibhav Jyotsna Srivastav, bringing glimpses of the major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment, and more. The headlines. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi chairs first revamped cabinet meeting after reshuffle. Over 23,000 crore rupees package announced for emergency response to COVID-19. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar says relations between Russia and India among steadiest of major relationships in world after Second World War. Pakistan indulges in baseless propaganda against India over Lahore blast near terrorist Hafiz Saeed's house, says New Delhi. 4 suspected of assassinating Haiti's President Jovenel Moise killed in shootout with security forces. Japan declares state of emergency 2 weeks ahead of Tokyo Olympics. In Wimbledon tennis, Ashley Barty storms into women's singles final, beating Angelique Kerber. And in Euro Cup football, England to clash with Italy in the final at Wembley Stadium on Sunday. As the nationwide free COVID-19 vaccination campaign at government facilities for those above 18 years is going on, we advise our young listeners to get vaccinated and also to help others to get vaccinated. We also advise our listeners not to lower their guard as COVID-19 remains a threat to our health. Please stay at home unless it is essential to go out and continue to follow these 3 simple steps. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki duri for social distancing, focus on hand and face hygiene. For any COVID-related information and guidance, contact national helpline numbers 011-2397-8046 and 1075. And now the news in detail. The Union Cabinet today approved a new scheme, India COVID-19 Emergency Response and Health System Preparedness Package Phase 2, amounting to 23,123 crore rupees for financial year 2021-22. Addressing media after the Union Cabinet meeting in New Delhi, Union Health Minister Mansukh Mandavia said that this scheme aims at accelerating health system preparedness for immediate responsiveness for early prevention, detection and management, with a focus on health infrastructure development. It also includes pediatric care and with measurable outcomes. He said Phase 2 will be implemented from 1st of July 2021 to 31st of March 2022 with central and state share. He said the central share of the project will be 15,000 crore rupees and state share will be 8,123 crore rupees. The Union Cabinet has decided to make amendments to the Coconut Development Board Act 1979 to make it more efficient to carry out the activities of farming and production of coconut. In another decision, Mr. Tomar informed that the Union Cabinet has also approved the proposal of allowing the Agriculture Produce Market Committees, APMCs, to use the 1 lakh crore rupees Agriculture Infrastructure Fund, which has been announced as a part of Atmanirbhar Bharat package. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar today said the relations between Russia and India have been among the steadiest of the major relationships in the world after the Second World War. In his speech on India-Russia ties in a changing world at IMEMO, Moscow, the minister said, the undeniable reality of the exceptional resilience of India-Russia ties is surely a phenomena that is worth analyzing. He said, the big issues of these times are combating terrorism, addressing pandemics, and acting on climate change. Dr. Jaishankar said India and Russia are unquestionably on the same page on all of these issues. He said both India and Russia have been victims of fundamentalist thinking and know the dangers of radicalization and extremism. He added that on climate change, Russia can really be an indispensable partner as India transitions towards greater LNG consumptions and renewables.
The Ministry of External Affairs on Thursday dismissed Pakistan's accusation that India was behind the blast in Lahore near terrorist Hafiz Saeed's house. The MEA spokesperson Arindam Bagchi said it is not new for Pakistan to engage in baseless propaganda against India. MEA spokesperson said Pakistan should focus on setting its house in order and take credible action against terrorism. He further said the global community is well aware of Pakistan's credentials when it comes to terrorism. A powerful car bomb outside the house of the 2008 Mumbai terror attack mastermind and chief of the banned Jamaat-ud-Dawa JUD Hafiz Saeed in Lahore last month killed 3 people and injured 24 others. Earlier this week, Pakistan accused India of orchestrating last month's car bombing.
It is not new for Pakistan to engage in baseless propaganda against India. Pakistan would do well to expend the same effort in setting its own house in order and taking credible and verifiable action against terrorism emanating from its soil and terrorists who have found safe sanctuaries there. The international community is well aware of Pakistan's credentials when it comes to terrorism. This is acknowledged by none other than its own leadership, which continues to glorify terrorists like Osama bin Laden as martyrs.
The External Affairs Ministry today said India is carefully monitoring the deteriorating security situation in Afghanistan and its implication on safety and security of the Indian nationals in the country. Briefing media today, Ministry spokesperson Arindam Bagchi said the Indian embassy in Kabul and consulates in Kandahar and Mazar-e-Sharif are functional. He said India's responses will be calibrated accordingly, depending on how the situation evolves.
External Affairs Ministry today said government's current focus continues to be on purposing domestic production towards India's domestic vaccination program. Briefing media, Ministry spokesperson Arindam Bagchi said government is also actively pursuing enhancement of vaccine availability through imports, which has helped increase the pace of vaccination in recent weeks. Regarding co-vaccine approval by WHO, the spokesperson said government continues to monitor the progress. He also hoped that individual countries would increasingly recognize made in India vaccines. Replying to a query on CoWIN app, Mr. Bagchi said this was an opportunity to offer to the world India's indigenously developed digital platform, which is open source, that can be shared with all. More than 400 participants from over 140 partner countries participated. Sanofi SA and GlaxoSmithKline PLC have received an approval from Indian authorities for a late-stage clinical trial of their protein-based COVID-19 vaccine candidate, the drug makers said today. France's Sanofi and Britain's GSK in May kicked off global trials to include more than 35,000 adults to test the shot. They hope to get approvals by the end of 2021 after early-stage results showed the vaccine produces a robust immune response.
India's cumulative COVID vaccination coverage has reached nearly 37 crore. The Union Health Ministry said more than 36,08,000 vaccine doses have been administered today. The new phase of universalization of COVID-19 vaccination commenced from the 21st of last month. The ministry said 17,93,000 vaccine doses were administered as the first dose and over 1,71,000 vaccine doses were given as the second dose in the age group of 18 to 44 years today. Cumulatively, over 10 crore 82 lakh persons in the age group of 18 to 44 years across 37 states and UTs have received their first dose and more than 33,70,000 have received their second dose since the start of phase 3 of the vaccination drive. After the first leg of visit to Kashmir Valley, the Delimitation Commission is in Jammu division for 2 days in order to meet the district electoral officers, DEOs, and delegations of various political parties of the Jammu division. AIR Jammu correspondent reports that the commission members today met scores of delegations of various political parties and DEOs of Kishtwar, Doda and Ramban districts. Later in the evening, the Delimitation Commission met delegations of various political parties, including the BJP, National Conference, Congress and National Panthers Party in Jammu. Tomorrow, the Delimitation Commission will meet with DEOs of Jammu, Samba, Kathua, Udhampur, Riyasi, Rajouri and Poonch districts before flying back to New Delhi.
In today's hotspot section, we bring you a discussion on the process of delimitation in Jammu and Kashmir. In conversation are Vice Chancellor of Central University of Jammu, Ashok Amma, and AIR correspondent Chetan Chauhan.
What is the present state of economy of Jammu and Kashmir and how it has seen an growth in the last few years?
When we talk of development and growth of any region, you have to contextualize it in terms of that region. For instance, earlier we used to have Ladakh, Valley and Jammu as three distinct regions which exhibited huge diversity in terms of its spatio-temporal variation, resource base and competencies. Therefore, when we talk about the development of the regions, at present we have about 20 districts in this union territory, and each district has its own potential and problems. Therefore, when one looks at developmental problems or developmental initiatives which have been taken in recent times, there have been very significant interventions by the present dispensation. For instance, Back to Villages is one initiative whereby the bureaucracy has been asked to go down to the grassroots level and understand what are the problems being faced at the local level so that those problems could be addressed at that level of point in time. Second is DDC election, District Development Council election, which I think despite we were the first as a state to introduce Panchayati Raj election in the 70s, yet these panchayats never enjoyed any kind of empowerment. There were more administrative outcomes of the district deputy commissioners' prerogatives. Now what we have seen is that these councils have been empowered not only in terms of their administrative powers but in terms of their financial flows. So I think that has brought about a huge amount of transparency at the panchayat level, which is going to augur well in terms of issues which were being talked about earlier in terms of the leakages, in terms of the non-performance. This will bring in the transparency and the accountability at the district level, which augurs very well. Other point which I think is very important in the recent past has been the connectivity, the tunnels which have been. The tunneling has brought down the travel time. If you can travel from Jammu to Srinagar without any problem, you could be there within 5 hours, which earlier would take about 8 to 10 hours. When this road would get closed, it has been one estimate says you would lose nearly 4 to 5,000 crores in 1 year's 1 week stoppage of the national highway. So I think we have been able to bring about a synergy and a momentum into the economic interplay of this region. And also that I would like to say, previous years, what happened, that we were believing that the fallacy of consumption would be treated as a true measure of economic prosperity and distributive societal welfare, which was not essentially supported by the domestic or internal productive flows. I mean, how do you talk of a growth model which doesn't ensure the productive flows of income, employment and output? Here we had necessarily been subsidizing the consumption. You have nearly 5 lakh employees in the government sector here, which is I think the second largest. We have more than the UP and then the Bihar. And see the financial spread of budgetary allocations which practically were being meted out with the central government funds. Today we have Rahbare Zira, Rahbare K, Rahbare Talim. Do you know what it means? You are subsidizing productive phase of the youth by giving them the subsidies. So if you are in Rahbare Talim, for instance, at the age of 20 and to continue with there for next 15 to 20 years, you are only consuming a subsidy, but you are not physically contributing anything. So that is one of the fallacy which is in the earlier times you would find here that we would insist on only on enhancing and encouraging the consumption without addressing to the productive capacities of different regions. That was one, I think, which has been addressed through the recent initiatives. Other point which I would like to say when you look back at growth potential and issues of this region, in 1950s we had said that we would have 20,000 megawatt of electricity, hydroelectric power. We do not treat it as a priority sector. Had we started investing into these things by 1950s, I think we would have been one of the best electronic states of the country, which would have been eco-friendly and you would have provided employment to a lot of people in now IT sector and electronic sector. So that is something I thought I share with you. But at present, I think what has happened, again, which is very important to understand, is that now the government has brought nearly business incubation center to the college level. They are not restricted to only to the primary institutions. What is that going to do is that you are going to create a culture of entrepreneurial spirit right from the college. Even new education policy talks about apprenticeship from the 6th standard. That means you are going to talk about giving an entrepreneurial orientation right from sixth standard. That aligns itself with the kind of a growth model, which I think is very important to what Paul Romer says, that American economist says, that endogenous growth theory. I think we have to strengthen the grassroots level democracy, and through democratic processes, the economic potentiality has to be optimized. For instance, in Kashmir, Kashmir is known as the food bowl of the country. How many juice factories do we have there? 40% of the fresh food gets wasted on the ground itself. And now that the cold storage for the fresh food is being talked about, the supply chain is being strengthened. I think that's going to enhance the value of the such agricultural products for which the primary producer, the basic farmer, would really never be a beneficiary. It used to be middlemen who would normally reap the benefits of such.
Yeah, Professor Imam, there was a lot of talk that a large amount of investment would come in Jammu and Kashmir. A summit was also held to invite investors to invest in Jammu and Kashmir. Jammu and Kashmir has a lot of potential both in agriculture, horticulture, as well as tourism, apart from infrastructure development. So how much progress has been made in attracting investment? Because if the investment comes, it creates a lot of job opportunities, gives an economic stimulus to people. A lot of economic activity also happens because of investment, and there's an upliftment of general people because of that. So how much investment come in the last few years?
For private investment to come in, you have to first create the confidence of an investor that you have a very stable environment within which one needs to operate. I think there have been at least 6 to 7 meets held across the country to invite private investors into the region. There have been a lot of promises, but honestly, on ground, I don't remember any significant investment which has as of now come in. But the government is trying to bring in them with the confidence. That again, I can share with you. For instance, when you talk of investment, what are you talking about? Is it the valley? Is it the Jammu region? I think Jammu region is doing pretty well in District Samba and District Putwa. Our industrial belts are doing pretty well there. You have some of the pharma companies who are doing exceptionally well. But when you talk in the valley context, I think you still need to instill that level of a confidence in a private investor. Though now you would be glad to know that there's kind of an incentive for the investors to come and set up universities here, where the government is willing to give 40% kind of a subsidy for such investment. With the present focus and the determination of the government, I think you're going to see some visible results coming forth in times to come. But you must understand, last 3 decades of turmoil, even the local investors had to migrate out because of the uncertainty of the region. So I think it's going to take some time more. If you're talking of the major investments, yes, you could attract major investment in hydropower generation because that is safe. That is one area where I think investment can be brought in there. Rest, if you talk of tourism, horticulture, agriculture, they are embedded in the local environment. So you have to give them facilities therefore. So if you are going to strengthen the value enhancement of these activities, you would have to strengthen the supply chain management. You would have to provide the cold storage. I mean, you will have to bring about structural reforms in expanding productive capacities at the grassroots level. That's what I see it. But I can tell you for sure that the government at present is determined to invite the investment. But still the catch-22 is how are you going to instill that level of confidence where the major players come in? That's the point I would like.
Professor Ahmed, the present administration in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir and the Lieutenant Governor Manoj Sinha, they have announced several schemes to boost investment, economic activity. The LG last year announced economic package of rupees 1,350 crore. He also announced interest subvention of up to 5%, which is one of the highest in the country. Maximum 2 or 3% is given, and also a relief on power and water tariff for a year. These measures, how much do you think they have helped in reviving economic activity in the times of COVID in Jammu and Kashmir?
I believe the present efforts need to be sustained because, as I said, the turmoil of last 3 decades or so is not very easy for a private investor to come in. But I can see the determination with which the present government, in fact, Honorable LG himself visits district level. He goes on spot to see for himself what are the issues and problems whereby these can be resolved on ground. And he has made every every bureaucrat to move around. I think that's going to create a better environment. But eventually, you'd have to first bring in that kind of trust and confidence in the investors to come into this place. Again, I said that these are different geographical divisions. Each geographical divisions have its problems. But where we don't have problems like Jammu, we have about 10 districts, and I have hardly seen any problem in 10 districts of Jammu where you could probably question the security or the safe environment for the investor. Even in Valley, you have just about 2.5 districts which are facing the kind of militancy. But rest of them are, if you look to Titwal, Tangdar, you look to the Anantnag upper region, I think you could create a kind of area activity synchronization through the efforts of the government to generate those growth impulses which are very necessary to usher in development with peace.
You spoke about peace. If you see the government data, the data which is presented in Parliament, the number of incidents of cross-border terrorism, encounters, terrorist activities have declined a lot in the past few years. So there appears to be a visibility in green shoots in peace, as the Defence Minister Rajnath Singh said a few years ago also. So how much of green shoots you can see in peace and tranquility in Jammu and Kashmir?
These signs are very visible now. If the present government continues the same kind of focus and determination, it should take another, say, year to two, whereby you'll see the visible results on the ground. In fact, I was amazed the other day, I was looking at the news. You see the people now coming very proactively to join the armed forces and paramilitary forces, which earlier probably was a huge question mark. So I think this government has been able to restore that kind of confidence, not only on the investors, but among the masses, to say that this government is transparent and responsive to the felt needs of these people across the 20 districts of this region. So I think you would see some visible results within, say, a year or two coming through very soon. Because as a Vice Chancellor of a university, I have received a number of queries from the private university owners to think of establishing their universities or institutions of higher learning, both in Jammu as well as in Kashmir Valley. We are on that track, but it will materialize if we continue the present push as we are doing it.
Thank you, Professor Ahmed.
My pleasure.
4 people suspected of assassinating Haiti's President Jovenel Moïse have been killed in a shootout with security forces. 2 others have been detained, while some remaining suspects are thought to be still at large in the nation's capital, Port-au-Prince. They will be killed or captured, Police Chief Leon Charles said. Mr. Moïse, 53, was fatally shot and his wife was injured when attackers stormed their home early on Wednesday.
A group of influential British lawmakers have urged the government to take tougher actions against China over its treatment of minority groups, including a partial Winter Olympics boycott and cotton trade ban. In a report following a months-long inquiry, Parliament's Foreign Affairs Committee on Wednesday recommended exploring the feasibility of an international criminal court probe into the alleged crimes against the Uyghur Muslims and others in the northwestern Chinese region of Xinjiang. South Africa's former president, Jacob Zuma, has handed himself into police to begin serving a 15-month jail sentence for contempt of court. He was admitted to Estcourt Correctional Center in his home province of KwaZulu-Natal on Wednesday. Police had warned that they were prepared to arrest him if he did not hand himself in by the midnight. Zuma, 79, was handed the jail term last week after he failed to attend a corruption inquiry.
Russia has offered North Korea COVID vaccines once again, amidst reports that a harsh lockdown is leading to extreme hunger. Pyongyang has refused vaccines and aid from a number of countries. It has instead sealed borders to try and keep the virus out, but that has affected trade with China. It relies on Beijing for food, fertilizer and fuel. Thailand's plan to reopen the country to foreign tourists in about 100 days has been thrown into doubt as it sees a new spike in COVID cases. Some 7,000 cases and 75 deaths were reported today, a daily record for the country. Thailand had last year seen success in combating the virus, with cases at one point dwindling to single digits. This is All India Radio giving you the world news.
The centre is disseminating awareness of national helpline numbers for the benefit of citizens during the COVID-19 pandemic. The helpline number of the Health and Family Welfare Ministry is 1075. The child helpline number is 1098. For senior citizens of Delhi, Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Tamil Nadu, Telangana, Uttar Pradesh and Uttarakhand, the helpline number is 14567. The helpline number of National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences, NIMHANS, for psychological support is 08046110007. Ayush COVID-19 counselling helpline number is 14443. And MyGov WhatsApp help desk number is 9013151515.
And now a report from the business world.
The Sensex declined 486 points or 0.92% to close at 52,569. The NSE Nifty also slipped 152 points or 0.96% to settle at 15,728. In the global equity markets, Asian stocks fell to a 6-week low. Hong Kong's Hang Seng tumbled 2.9%, Singapore's Straits Times declined 1.1%, and South Korea's Kospi plunged 1%. Japan's Nikkei 225 declined 0.9%, and China's Shanghai Composite Index fell 0.8%. European shares were also down in intraday trade amid
Only a few days are left for the Tokyo Olympics. Today we will talk about female boxer Pooja Rani Vohra in the Special Olympics series of All India Radio.
Female boxer Pooja Rani Vohra is a strong contender to win a medal in the Tokyo by making her punches at the opponent. Many achievements are recorded in name of Pooja. Pooja achieved tremendous success in the Senior National Championship in 2012. In the 2013 Asian Championship, Pooja won a silver medal. Pooja won the gold medal in the 2019 Bangkok Asian Championship. In the last 8 of the Olympic qualifiers tournament held in Jordan, Pooja defeated boxer of Thailand and got a ticket to Tokyo. Pooja makes a different strategy for every match, and she had a special strategy for that important quarter final as well.
क्वार्टर फाइनल बाउट थी और वो जो थाईलैंड के साथ थी, तो मैं उस बॉक्सर का मुझे पता भी नहीं था वो कैसे खेलती है, तो मैंने कोच साहब से बात भी की कि सर मुझे पता नहीं है वो कैसे खेलती है, तो इन्होंने मेरे को बताया कि शुरू में जाके तुझे अटैक नहीं करना है, थोड़ी देर उसको देखना है और फिर सेकंड राउंड में तेरे समझ में आ जाएगी कि कैसे खेलना है.
Pooja is preparing fiercely for Tokyo. Along with her fitness, she is also working on her speed, how to sharpen her defense, and how to bring herself at the attacking mode.
टाइम मेरा ओलंपिक के लिए क्वालिफाई हुआ है, तो मैं अपनी तरफ से कोई ऐसी कमी नहीं छोड़ना चाहती. मैं बाद में मुझे ऐसा ना हो कि मैंने ट्रेनिंग नहीं की या फिर मैं और कर सकती थी.
Pooja's coach Sanjay Sheron is confident that Pooja is a strong contender for a medal in Tokyo.
पूजा के पास एक्सपीरियंस है, पहले भी इसने वर्ल्ड चैंपियन को बीट किया है, एशिया चैंपियन रही है, एशियन गेम में मेडल रहा है, तो हमें उम्मीद है कि पूजा वहाँ से पदक लेके आएगी.
Pooja has made her intentions clear by winning the gold medal once again in the Asian Championship held in Dubai this year.
मैं कोशिश करूंगी कि मैं अपने देश के लिए मेडल ला.
With her superb form, Pooja is ready to create a history in Tokyo. Diksha Saxena, Sports Desk.
Japan has declared a state of emergency in Tokyo, which will run throughout the Olympic Games to combat COVID-19. Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga informed the media that it would remain in place until 22nd of August. In Eurocup football, England beat Denmark 2-1 to set up final clash against Italy.
In Wimbledon tennis, Australian world number 1 Ashley Barty beat 2018 winner Angelique Kerber of Germany 6-3, 7-6 in the women's singles semi-final this evening to reach the finals.
A quick look at the headlines once again. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi chairs first revamped cabinet meeting after reshuffle. Over 23,000 crore rupees package announced for emergency response to COVID-19. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar says relations between Russia and India are among steadiest of major relationships in world after Second World War. Pakistan indulges in baseless propaganda against India over Lahore blast near terrorist Hafiz Saeed's house, says New Delhi. Japan declares state of emergency 2 weeks ahead of Tokyo Olympics. In Wimbledon tennis, Ashley Barty storms into women's single final, beating Angelique Kerber. And in Eurocup football, England to clash with Italy in the final at Wembley Stadium on Sunday. India is celebrating the 151st birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. Before we end, let us listen to his favorite bhajan, Vaishnav Jan, by artists from Madagascar. And with that, we end this bulletin. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.